Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and in this video I'm going to cover some information about one of my favorite weeds. Now the information I share with you is not meant to be medical advice. This is based on my own research, my own experience, and is my own opinion. So when it comes to using herbs, plant medicine, natural remedies, please do your own due diligence and seek out a qualified healthcare practitioner if you have any medical issues. Now, the plant I'm talking about that is considered a weed is purslane. Now, some of you might be familiar with this. You've probably seen it because it grows in a lot of places. So this is in my book, and you can see what this looks like. You've maybe stepped over it. But where purslane originates is Northern Africa, the Middle East, Southern Europe, and places in Asia and Australia. And somewhere along the line in history, it got brought over to North America, and it grows all over North America, and it is in the succulent family, so it likes the warm months, the warm summer months. Now the time of day that you collect purslane is in the morning and in the early evening. And these leaves, it's the leaves and the seeds of purslane that you use. Now, not only is it got these beautiful succulent leaves, but it's got these beautiful little yellow flowers. Now, what I've always found interesting is almost anywhere I walk and anywhere I go outside, here in Utah especially, I'm sure it's everywhere in North America, I see purslane everywhere. And it likes to grow in the cracks of sidewalks. It likes to grow in piles of rocks. In fact, one of the places that I go on my walk every day, and there's a little place along the river, there's a big playground, and they've put a whole bunch of rocks around parts of the playground, and there's always purslane growing out of the rocks. Now, this is where you want to be careful where you get your purslane, because you never know if it's been sprayed. In fact, I was walking a couple weeks ago, and as I walked by this playground, there was these beautiful purslane plants that I would walk by every day, and I walked by one day and they'd been sprayed and they were just all dried up and brown. They were still there. And I was just like, oh, if human beings only knew the power of common things like purslane that just grows everywhere, and how nutritious they are and how delicious. Now, I actually have by my garden boxes, I have a little bit of rocks, but I also have some of just the soil that's like underneath my tomatoes. And it's interesting because purslane loves the rocks near my garden boxes, and it's also kind of jumped around because the seeds are part of what you eat, but the seeds are what make this propagate. So the seeds will have kind of jumped around, and what I have found that if I just let them grow in my garden box, they'll get water naturally when my tomatoes get watered. They are the most beautiful succulent plants, and I know that they're good to eat because we don't use any type of spray in our yard at all. We let everything grow organically, and that's just the way we prefer it. Now, the cool thing about purslane, and you use the leaves and the seeds, is that it's naturally high in omega-3s and minerals. And it's also really high in magnesium and melatonin. So think about that. You've got a plant that is not only everywhere, but it's easy to actually use and chop up in your salads. In fact, in my book, I have a beautiful recipe for a purslane pesto. So what I would say is start looking around your neighborhood, around your yard, and see if there is purslane growing. It's really easy to identify, and once you do that, then maybe start experimenting. Make sure that you actually harvest your purslane from places that you know have not been sprayed, and hopefully they're in your own yard where you can actually kind of control them. But it's a beautiful plant that's got these beautiful succulent leaves and these really brilliant little yellow flowers. So take a look at purslane and all the things that it does. It's good for it's an anti-inflammatory. It's what's known as an emollient, which actually moisturizes and soothes not just the skin, but the insides of our bodies too. So do a little bit more research on the beautiful exotic weed that is purslane, and I'd love to hear what you think about this and if you've ever used it. This was actually a last minute addition to my book when I was really wrapping up all of the plants that I wanted in my book. One of my sisters has a really good friend that in fact, it's the sister who did all of the drawings, all of the illustrations in my book. And she said, my friend wants to know if you're going to put purslane in your book. And I was like, you know what? It wasn't on the list, but it actually got in as a last addition because of that conversation my sister had with her friend. And it was like, oh my goodness, yes, of course, this has to go in there. Because just like dandelion, the leaves, the root, everything that you can do with dandelion, and it's so readily available everywhere, why not learn about these things that grow and you can actually use them just because they grow everywhere. So I hope you found this interesting. I love purslane. I'm so happy every spring and summer when it comes back and it just grows everywhere. And I actually nurture some of the purslane in my yard, back by my garden boxes. So I'd love to know what you think. Do you use purslane as a culinary herb? I'd love to hear if you do. Let me know what you think, and we will see you next time.